He came home from war, but left his heart behind. That's how it felt for Staff Sergeant John Miller. The day he stepped off that transport plane, the air wasn't filled with the sweet smell of freedom, but with the dust of a country half a world away. His family was there, of course. His wife, Sarah, her eyes brimming with tears he couldn't quite understand. His son, Leo, a little boy he barely recognized, hiding behind his mother's legs. They saw a hero. He saw a ghost wearing his face. The first few weeks were a blur of forced smiles and welcome home parties. Friends clapped him on the back, asking what it was like over there. How could he explain? How could he put into words the constant hum of anxiety, the searing heat, the faces of comrades he'd never see again? So he'd just nod, say it was tough. But we got the job done, and take another drink. The alcohol helped. It blurred the edges, softened to the memories that played on a loop in his mind every time he closed his eyes. Sarah tried to reach him. She'd talk about fixing the leaky faucet, about Leo's parent-teacher conference, about plans for the future. He'd listen, or pretend to, but his mind was elsewhere. He was back in the Humvee, the radio crackling, the landscape outside a monotonous brown. He was replaying every decision, every near miss, every moment that could have gone differently. Civilian life felt trivial, slow, and meaningless. The stakes weren't high enough. The adrenaline was gone, replaced by annoying emptiness. One night, a car backfired down the street. In a split second, John was on the floor, heart pounding, sweat pouring down his face, his hands instinctively reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Sarah rushed in to find him trembling, his eyes wide with a terror she couldn't see. She tried to hold him, but he flinched away, lost in a battle that had followed him home. That was the night she knew the man she married was still trapped somewhere else. The distance between them grew into a chasm. He started spending more time at the local bar with other veterans. They were the only ones who got it. They didn't ask stupid questions. They just drank, shared dark humor, and sat in a comfortable silence that spoke volumes. They were all haunted by their own soldier's shadow. But that shared understanding was a double-edged sword. It kept them tethered to the past, reinforcing the idea that no one else could ever comprehend their world. Meanwhile, his relationship with Leo was practically non-existent. The boy would try to show him a drawing or a new toy, and John would offer a hollow, "That's great, son," without even looking. He was afraid of his own temper, which now had a hair trigger. Afraid of the nightmares, afraid that his son would see the monster he felt he'd become. It was easier to keep a distance, to be a ghost in his own home. He was protecting them from himself, or so he told himself. Sarah eventually gave him an ultimatum. "John, I love you," she said, her voice shaking but firm. "But I can't do this anymore. Leo can't do this. You're here, but you're not. It's like living with a shadow. You need help. We need you to get help." Her words hit him harder than any bullet ever could have. He saw the pain in her eyes, the exhaustion. For the first time, he saw the battlefield he had created right here, in his own living room. He looked at his son, who was watching from the doorway, his small face a mixture of fear and confusion. He was losing his family. He had survived a war, only to come home and destroy the very thing he had been fighting for. The thought was a cold, sharp shock to his system. He had to fight a new battle now, a different kind of war, a war for his own mind, for his family, for the man he used to be. The first step was the hardest. Walking into that veteran support center felt like a surrender. His pride screamed at him to turn back, but he thought of Sarah's tear-streaked face and Leo's fearful eyes. He sat in a circle of men, all with the same haunted look he saw in the mirror every morning. He listened as they shared stories that mirrored his own, and then, his voice cracking, he began to speak. He talked about the dust, the fear, the guilt, the emptiness, and for the first time since coming home, he didn't feel so alone. The road back was long and arduous. There were good days and terrible days. There were therapy sessions that left him raw and exhausted. He had to learn to talk, to feel, to connect again. He started small, fixing that leaky faucet Sarah had mentioned months ago. Then, sitting down with Leo and actually looking at his drawing, asking him questions about the colors he chose. He took his son to the park, pushing him on the swing, the sound of his laughter a melody that began to drown out the echoes of war. He and Sarah started talking again. Really talking. Not about the war, not at first, but about them. He apologized for the distance, for the fear, for the shadow he had let consume him. She listened, and she began to share her own battle, the one she fought at home, waiting and worrying. They were learning to be a team again, fighting side by side. John never fully left the war behind. The soldier's shadow would always be a part of him, but he learned to live with it, to control it instead of letting it control him. He learned that true strength wasn't about surviving combat. It was about having the courage to face your own demons. It was about fighting to come all the way home, not just with your body, but with your heart and soul. He was no longer a ghost in his own house. He was a husband, a father, a survivor. He was home. If you or someone you know is a veteran struggling with the transition back to civilian life, please know that help is available and you are not alone.